an elevator, a sealed tank, and a city that forgot what it saw. Part 1. The last footage. Los Angeles, February of 2013. A city humming with lights, movement, and life. Except for one building. The Cecil Hotel stands in the heart of downtown. Once grand, now crumbling. The sign outside flickers faintly. The serif letters half lit against a cloudy sky. Inside, dust clings to curtains. Carpets smell of age, and the walls feel like they're listening. The place is a contradiction, neither alive nor dead, somewhere in between, just like what happened to her. Elisa Lam checked in on January 29th, a 21-year-old student from Vancouver, solo traveler, blog writer. She posted about books, feelings, isolation, and dreams of finding something real. That night, she got a shared dorm room on the 5th floor. 3 days later, she was moved to a private room. No one ever explained why. Hotel staff said she behaved strangely, but not dangerously, just off. She spoke to herself. She wandered the hallways at night. One roommate reportedly asked to be moved. Elisa didn't seem angry, just unsettled, like she didn't quite know where she was. On February 1st, she disappeared, and for days, nothing. No one saw her leave. No camera caught her exiting the building. Her belongings were still in the room. Her parents called. The police came. Search dogs swept the building, but she was nowhere, just gone. Then came the video, February 13th. The LAPD released 4 minutes and 26 seconds of footage. Security camera, elevator, timestamp blurred. It begins with Elisa stepping into the elevator, a red jacket, black skirt, and sandals. She presses several buttons quickly, waits, but the door doesn't close. She peeks out into the hallway, then retreats. She hides in the corner, hands clasped, then steps out again. Back in, out. Her movements are erratic, almost childlike. Then, something shifts. Her hands begin to move in a way that doesn't match language or logic. Not gesturing, not waving, not quite dancing. It's like she's feeling the air, pressing against something we can't see. Her fingers splay, twist, pause mid-air. For a moment, it looks like she's communicating with someone or something, not visible on camera. She steps into the hallway, her hands still moving, and then she disappears from frame. The elevator door closes behind her. Late, too late, then opens, then closes again. Empty, again, and again. Just an empty box, breathing in and out. That was the last time anyone ever saw her alive. The internet exploded. Reddit threads multiplied. YouTube slowed the footage frame by frame. Some said she was high. Some said she was having a psychotic break. Others, they weren't so sure. The video's been edited, one user posted. There's 30 seconds missing. And it was true. The timestamp jumped. Elisa's movements flickered unnaturally, almost as if someone had removed something, or someone. 12 days later, guests at the hotel began to complain. Weird water pressure, strange taste, dark color, Maintenance worker Santiago Lopez was sent to the roof. He walked through the locked door, the one with the alarm that never went off, climbed the metal staircase, approached the 4 industrial water tanks, lifted the lid on one, and there she was. Naked, face down, floating. The tank was nearly full, but she hadn't floated to the top. She seemed placed. Gently. There were no ladders inside, no footholds. The lid was heavy. How did she get in? Why was the alarm never triggered? And if she walked up there herself, why were her clothes never found? The autopsy was inconclusive. No trauma, no drugs, no alcohol, just a note. Death by drowning. Manner undetermined. Elisa had posted regularly on Tumblr. One post, 2 weeks before she vanished, read, "I feel like I'm stuck between 2 realities, like I'm only half here." Another, written months earlier, "Sometimes I think I'm being followed, but when I turn around, no one's there." Her blog stopped updating the day she disappeared. No goodbye, no warning, just silence. Cecil Hotel has a history. Serial killers, suicides, disappearances. Richard Ramirez, Jack Unterweger, unidentified guests who never checked out. People say the place is cursed, that it eats people, that it hides things between walls. But maybe it doesn't hide them. Maybe it just keeps them somewhere we can't see. They drained the tank, closed the case, called it tragic. But they never explained. Why was the elevator door open so long? Why was the footage edited? Why did Elisa act like someone or something was standing just out of view? And most importantly, how do you drown in a sealed tank, on a locked roof, in a building that swallows time? Some people say the hotel drove her mad. Others say she saw something no one else could see, something she tried to run from, but couldn't. The last frame of the elevator video still lingers online. A blurred hallway, a door trying to close. No one inside, but watch long enough and you might start to feel it too, like something's there, waiting, just out of frame. Part 2. A girl lost in 2 realities. Some disappearances leave behind a trail. Footsteps, timestamps, receipts. Elisa Lam left something else. Words. Words she never meant as clues. Words that felt too personal to belong in a mystery. But now they echo louder than any evidence ever could. Her Tumblr page, titled Nouvelle Nouveau, was a window not into her life, but into the space between who she was and where she thought she was going. Her final post was dated January 31st. "I have arrived in LA, and it seems like I'm in a movie, the kind that's beautiful but slowly becomes something else." The caption felt harmless, but in retrospect, it stings. Because something else did come. Elisa had always been a dreamer, a girl with quiet thoughts and heavy thoughts. She struggled with depression and bipolar disorder, a fact her family only admitted after the headlines broke. But she didn't hide from it. She wrote about it. She gave it names. "My mind is sometimes a house with no windows." She once wrote, Other times, it's a hallway with doors that don't stay closed. She wasn't afraid of being honest. She was afraid of being lost in it. During her trip through California, Elisa took photos in bookstores, coffee shops, and museums. She spoke to strangers. She mailed postcards. In one message to her parents, she wrote, "I feel strange but okay. The weather makes everything feel like it's moving slower. Maybe that's what I need." But then, something changed. Hotel guests reported hearing a girl talking to herself in the hallway. Staff said she wandered the lobby late at night. Her roommate, before being reassigned, claimed Elisa would leave in the middle of the night, barefoot, and not explain. One night, she stood for 20 minutes in front of the elevator mirror, not moving, just watching herself, not fixing her hair, not adjusting clothes, just watching. What was she waiting for? In the elevator footage released later, some viewers noticed something odd. Elisa never looked up at the security camera, not once, as if she didn't know it was there, or as if she was aware, but ignoring it, like she was performing for something else. Some Reddit users pointed out her gestures resembled automatic writing, a practice associated with spiritual contact. Others noticed the timestamp skip, the door delay, but the most compelling theory wasn't technical. It was emotional. What if Elisa wasn't acting out? What if she was trying to align herself with something we couldn't see? In a post dated December of the previous year, she wrote, "Sometimes I dream I'm in a place that looks like my life, but nothing quite fits. People smile, but their mouths don't match their eyes. I wake up, and it feels more real than the day I'm in." Most dismissed it as poetic metaphor, but rereading it now, it reads like a warning, or a message she wasn't even aware she was leaving. The police found her prescriptions in the room: mood stabilizers, antidepressants, antipsychotics. Toxicology later confirmed she had taken some, but not all. Her lithium levels were low, not non-existent, but enough to raise questions. Could a manic episode explain her behavior? Maybe, but it wouldn't explain everything. Not how she got to the roof, not how the alarm didn't sound, not how she ended up inside a sealed tank with no ladder and no bruises. The autopsy said nothing about fear or confusion or the stillness of her hands underwater. One anonymous post appeared weeks later, claiming to have stayed on the same floor. She wasn't scared. That's what I remember. She looked like she was following something, like she'd already decided to leave. She smiled at me when I passed her in the hallway, like she knew where she was going. That post was deleted a day later. No one could trace the account. Elisa had no history of hallucinations. She had no record of running from anything before, but something in those last days felt split, like she wasn't living in just one version of her life. She once wrote, "I don't think I'm afraid of death. I think I'm afraid of disappearing." The line felt poetic then. Now, it feels like prophecy. There are two kinds of disappearance: the kind where someone is taken, and the kind where someone steps away, quietly, deliberately, as if they know something we don't. Elisa's footsteps weren't frantic. Her behavior wasn't panicked. She looked around the hallway like she expected something to appear, or already had. To this day, people debate what she saw, or thought she saw, But maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe it's not what she saw, but where she was seeing it from. Because sometimes a mind can fracture, but sometimes a reality can. And when the two collapse at the same time, you might step into the hallway and never come back. Not because you vanished, but because you arrived somewhere else. Part 3. The water that spoke. The complaint started small. A few guests on the 4th floor said the water pressure was low. Then someone mentioned the taste. Metallic, bitter. Another said the color was dark, almost black. Some laughed. It was an old building, after all. But others began to feel uneasy. One woman said the shower left a sticky feeling on her skin. Another swore her toothbrush smelled like something rotting. The staff apologized, promised to check it, but no one expected what they'd find. February 19th. Santiago Lopez, a maintenance worker at the Cecil Hotel, climbed to the roof. The sun was weak that morning, muted by smog, the kind of light that makes everything look like a memory. He walked past the locked door. The alarm didn't sound. Again, up the metal stairs, past 4 large cylindrical water tanks, weathered and still. And then he opened one. She was floating face down, naked, hair spread like dark ink, silent. Elisa Lam had been missing for nearly 3 weeks, and now she was water. The fire department arrived. Police cordoned off the roof. News crews swarmed the sidewalk below. Guests were told to leave. Some refused. Some already had. After brushing their teeth with her, it took hours to retrieve the body. The tank had no internal ladder, no steps, only smooth steel walls. They had to cut it open. They wrapped her in a tarp, lowered her carefully like an offering. The coroner would later say her body showed no signs of trauma, no struggle, no external injuries. Her lungs were filled with water. Her heart had stopped quietly. The official cause? Accidental drowning. The manner? Undetermined. But everyone asked the same thing. How did she get in there? The door to the roof was locked and alarmed. No footage showed her going up. No clothes were ever recovered. The lid was heavy. Too heavy for one person. And once inside, there was no way out. They drained the tank, scrubbed the walls, cleaned the pipes, but the questions remained, like a taste that wouldn't leave your mouth. Some say water holds memory, that it remembers what passes through it, that it carries the weight of what it touches. So, what did the water at the Cecil remember? One guest, after learning what happened, said she had dreams during her stay, dreams of drowning, of a girl standing outside her door, dripping wet. Another said she saw Elisa in the hallway. After the date, she had supposedly vanished. She didn't look scared, the woman said. She looked distant. A man who stayed in room 504 claimed his faucet turned on by itself at 3:18 a.m., exactly when the elevator video was recorded. He checked. No one had used the bathroom. The floor outside was dry, but the water was running, cold. Paranormal investigators would later call it the resonance effect. a theory that traumatic events leave imprints, like fingerprints, on air or on water. Elisa was never seen alive after that elevator ride, but the hotel seemed to remember her. The rooftop, now locked permanently, became a point of obsession. Tourists climbed fire escapes just to peek at the tanks. Some claimed to feel cold up there, even in summer. One person said they heard tapping from inside the tank. But the tanks were empty, and Elisa was buried in Canada. Still, the hotel whispered, not in voices, but in sounds, dripping pipes, flickering lights, water that ran when no one turned the handle. Some believe the tank wasn't a container, but a message, that her death wasn't meant to hide her, but to speak, to say she had gone somewhere we couldn't follow, and water was the only thing that still knew the way. There are places in the world where reality bends, where grief and structure overlap, where the weight of a building isn't measured in concrete, but in memory, and perhaps Elisa stepped into that weight and drowned in it. Not in water, but in something older and quieter. Part 4. Internet Theories and Hidden Timelines. The internet didn't let this one go. Not like other stories, not like other deaths. When the elevator footage was released, it spread like wildfire. YouTube, Reddit, forums with names like Unexplained Files, Glitch Hunters, and R Creepy. Millions of views in hours, hundreds of theories by morning. But something strange happened. The more people watched it, the less sense it made. Not just because of how Elisa moved, but because of how the video itself behaved. Users reported buffering at the same second mark. Some frames jumped, others blurred, and one detail stood out. The timestamp had been tampered with, deliberately. Digital analysts slowed the video down and noticed something terrifying. There were exactly 33 seconds missing, a clean cut, no glitches, just a moment removed, like a surgeon's blade through time. Why? If this was meant to help find her, why alter it? Some said it was to protect an investigation. Others weren't so sure. One Redditor, username Veritas Obscura, posted a breakdown of the footage, highlighting frame skips, elevator behavior, and motion artifacts. In one frame, Elisa appears to shift unnaturally, as if sliding across the floor without moving her feet. In another, a black shadow flickers near the right edge of the hallway, then disappears. The post was up for 2 days, then it vanished. No record, no cache. The user never posted again. Another user claimed the elevator game theory, a supposed urban ritual from Korea where pressing floors in a certain sequence could open a door to somewhere else. Another plane, a version of our world that looked the same but wasn't. Elisa's button presses matched the pattern. She stepped in, pressed the sequence, waited. The door refused to close. Then she stepped out. Into what? Others dug into the Cecil itself, not just its history, but its floor plans, and found that the layout on file didn't match the current structure. A wall where a door used to be, a hallway that ends suddenly, a floor labeled R that didn't appear in the elevator. hidden levels, phantom blueprints. A thread titled Room 504 was never built gained traction. It claimed some rooms had been walled off in the 90s. After a series of suicides, Elisa stayed in 506. Next door, someone cross-referenced her Tumblr timestamps with CCTV footage. They didn't line up. Her final blog post was dated the same day she was last seen, but the wording matched a post she had written a week earlier. Copied, pasted, pre-scheduled, or posted by someone else? A woman named Linda claimed she saw Elisa after the official date of disappearance in the lobby, holding a piece of paper. She said Elisa looked at her, said, "He told me I was too early. That's all." No security footage confirmed it. Of course, by then, people had stopped trusting the cameras. Some users began calling the case a controlled narrative, that we weren't being told everything, not by police, not by the hotel, not even by Elisa herself. Another theory emerged, one that wasn't about murder or mental health or ghosts, but about memory, digital memory. That Elisa's case was being reshaped as we watched it. Posts disappeared, links broke, screenshots corrupted. YouTube re-uploads of the elevator footage began to desync. Some played the missing seconds, then glitched. Others looped indefinitely. A loop where she never leaves the elevator, where the door never closes, where she's always just about to vanish. Some said she never died, that she became a permanent data echo, like those songs that get stuck in your head without knowing where you heard them, like muscle memory from a body you no longer own. There's a term for this, residual self-pattern, when a system can't delete something completely, so it loops what's left. Is that what the internet did to Elisa? Not to honor her, not to solve her, but to keep her stuck. Some claim to have seen new frames in the footage, a hand at the edge, a figure on the roof, a reflection that doesn't match her. Each time someone posts it, the frame disappears in later versions, like it's protecting itself, like the video doesn't want to be solved. A deeper theory emerged from a Discord group obsessed with digital anomalies. They called the case a timeline error, that something about Elisa's death wasn't just unexplained, it was misplaced, like it didn't belong in this version of events. Their conclusion? Elisa didn't die. She was overwritten. A shadow version filling a space that wasn't ready for her. The hotel didn't kill her, it accepted her because something else left. Some called it nonsense, but others, especially those who watched the footage late at night, on repeat, frame by frame, they said the same thing. It doesn't matter how many times I watch it, I always feel like something's missing. And not just time, but presence, a weight just off screen. In 2023, someone found an archived blog post attributed to Elisa. It was never published, drafted, but unsent. I don't know what's real anymore. I think I left something open. I hope it doesn't follow me back. That post, too, is now gone. No trace, no cache, no confirmation it was ever real. But some swear they read it. And if that's true, maybe Elisa wasn't afraid of dying. Maybe she was afraid of remembering something no one else could see. Part 5. What the city chose to forget. There are places that remember, even when people forget. Downtown Los Angeles keeps moving. Lights blink, traffic hums, coffee shops rotate their menus. Buildings rise, rent climbs, people change. But the Cecil Hotel remains. Not as it was, but not entirely changed. Just paused. They tried to rebrand it. A few years after Elisa Lam's death, painted the walls, renamed it Stay on Main. But people remembered, tourists asked, locals warned, and the building itself, it didn't forget. A concierge once said he heard footsteps from the locked 14th floor. Another employee quit after seeing someone in the lobby that wasn't there when he looked again. They don't put that in the Yelp reviews. People say cities forget, but it's more accurate to say they choose to. Some memories are too inconvenient, too quiet, too heavy. So the city turns its head, tells itself a different version, one where Elisa was sick, alone, an accident, easier to swallow. But that version never fully settled. Because the footage exists, because the tank exists, because people still dream about her. A guest who stayed in room 412 said she woke up to the sound of elevator chimes, but no one was there. The door opened at 2:14 a.m., closed, opened again, just like in the video. Another swears she saw a girl walk through the lobby barefoot, no shoes, wet footprints, gone before she reached the door. They thought it was imagination until they learned her name. The Cecil is still open, still takes bookings, still has visitors who don't know or pretend not to. Some ask for room 506 just to see what it feels like. But the building doesn't welcome curiosity, not anymore. Someone once wrote, places don't become haunted, they become dense with memory. The Cecil is dense. It holds stories in the pipes, footsteps in the walls, breath in the elevator. It holds Elisa, not as a ghost, not as a victim, but as something else. A presence, a residue, a pulse between floors. There's a theory called liminal permanence, the idea that when a person dies under unresolved circumstances, their final location becomes stuck in a loop. Time doesn't move forward. It just replays again and again. Some say that's why the elevator still behaves strangely, why the door opens without buttons, why the cameras glitch, but only at 2:14 a.m. Because Elisa's not gone, not really. She's on a loop, not in the building, in us, in what we refuse to let go, in the questions we re-ask, in the footage we re-watch, trying to solve something that was never meant to be solved, only remembered. A police officer who worked the case later moved to another precinct. He never talked about her again. But when asked if he believed in ghosts, he paused, then said, "Some things stay, not in the way you think, not in the way you want." The Cecil has been remodeled again, now with smart locks, LED lighting, fresh paint, but the foundation still hums, still remembers. Because what happened there wasn't just a death, It was a moment that didn't resolve. And places like that, they hold on. Not just to people, but to possibility. Some say Elisa was lost. Others say she was taken. Some believe she walked into something we still don't have a name for. But the city? It forgot. On purpose. Because remembering means accepting there's a door you can't close and a presence that still watches. Elevators shouldn't behave like that. Tanks shouldn't hold bodies. Hotels shouldn't echo with memories that never belonged to you. And yet, here we are. She stepped out of the elevator. She walked down the hall, and the door that should have stayed closed opened. The Cecil Hotel remained, because some buildings aren't structures, they're records. And Elisa Lam, she's still in there, somewhere between the floors.